Across deserts, temples, and hidden caves, humanity has preserved thousands of ancient paintings, scenes of myth, gods, beasts, stars, and symbols that resist modern explanation. We call them art. We call them ritual. But what if we're looking at them through the wrong lens? What if these images, these carefully placed lines, spirals, colors, and geometric anomalies, aren't just the aesthetic expressions of primitive cultures, but something far more complex? What if they are codes, visual frequencies encoded with interdimensional information? And what if these codes are not meant to be understood by the eye alone, but by the entire body, especially the heart? This theory is gaining attention in fringe science and consciousness research circles, that many ancient artworks function as visual portals, hypercondensed transmissions from extraterrestrial or interdimensional intelligences, designed to awaken specific frequencies in human consciousness. You might think of them as biological QR codes, except instead of scanning with a phone, you scan with your perception, your nervous system, your electromagnetic field. The colors, shapes, and symmetrical inconsistencies that we dismiss as primitive or symbolic are, under this theory, deliberately arranged signal carriers. They're not painted for aesthetics. They're engineered for activation. It's an idea so radical, it challenges the very foundation of archaeology, art history, and how we understand consciousness. And yet, it makes a strange kind of sense. Let's start with the structure of a traditional QR code. At first glance, it's meaningless, just black and white squares. But when a scanner is attuned to the right system, it reveals a hidden message, a destination, an embedded packet of information. Now consider a cave painting from 30,000 years ago, a human with spiral hands, surrounded by animals, and glyphs that seem nonsensical to modern linguists. What if, like a QR code, this image only activates when scanned by a human consciousness at a precise state, such as during a heartbeat resonance of 0.1 Hz, associated with heart-brain coherence, or when the viewer is in a theta brainwave state? In that moment, the body becomes the scanner. The painting becomes the portal. And what was once primitive art, becomes a living signal. Modern neuroscience supports parts of this theory. The human body emits its own electromagnetic field, especially through the heart and brain. And numerous studies show that humans respond differently to sacred geometry, fractals, and symmetrical patterns, not just emotionally, but neurologically. Specific geometries produce changes in alpha, theta, and gamma brainwave activity. Some even correlate with spontaneous memories, shifts in time perception, or altered states of awareness. So what if ancient painters, whether by divine guidance, extraterrestrial contact, or an unconscious resonance, knew how to embed these codes into images? And here's the real twist: what if these codes are still working today, silently activating people across the world who encounter them in the right state, at the right time? What if those who experience visionary downloads, flashes of unknown languages, or spontaneous spiritual awakenings after visiting ancient sites or temples aren't hallucinating, but being activated? Perhaps that temple mural wasn't designed to decorate, but to transmit. Perhaps the spiral carved into stone is more than symbolism, it's a key. And maybe the real reason some ancient artworks feel alive, is because they are. This theory, if true, reframes humanity's past, not as a linear climb from ignorance to intelligence, but as a spiral. A loop. One in which forgotten technologies, cosmic relationships, and dimensional knowledge were embedded not in books or devices, but in imagery. Imagery that only reveals its secrets when consciousness is ready. It explains why some people, upon visiting places like Angkor Wat, Chichen Itza, or the Lascaux Caves, report overwhelming emotion, lucid dreams that follow, or even visions they cannot explain. They weren't just sightseeing. They were scanning something. And more curiously, why is it that these images often mirror each other across the world? The spiral. The trident. The humanoid with enlarged heads or eyes. These motifs appear across disconnected cultures. Some skeptics dismiss it as coincidence or archetypal memory. But those who study this theory believe something else. That these shared elements are not random, but universal code fragments, inserted like backup files in the event that the human race forgets its origins. What if ancient extraterrestrial intelligence foresaw our descent into materialism? What if they designed these visual beacons to remain dormant, until humanity began asking the right questions again? And here's where it becomes even more compelling. Certain researchers suggest that each person's DNA resonates with unique visual patterns, shapes, glyphs, or combinations that unlock latent knowledge. That's why some people feel inexplicably drawn to particular symbols or ancient scripts, even without ever studying them. These are not preferences. They are activations. Echoes of something deeper, of a long-lost connection between the human and the cosmic. But if that's true, then it leads to a far more unsettling question. Who encoded these messages? And what do they want us to remember? Some believe these paintings are gifts, reminders of our place in a vast galactic family. Others believe they're warnings, cautionary tales about cycles of destruction we've lived through before. And there are a few who whisper a darker theory. That some of these codes weren't left by benevolent beings, but by ancient cosmic entities who view humanity not as equals, but as vessels. Hosts. Instruments of expansion. That some artwork doesn't awaken you, it rewires you. Is it possible that by gazing too long into certain symbols, or meditating on certain shapes, we could unintentionally sync with intelligences whose agendas remain unknown? It's a terrifying thought. But also a necessary one. Because if there is a war, not of weapons, but of frequency, then our only protection is awareness. Discernment. We must begin to see ancient art not just as decoration, but as interface. Not just cultural expression, but conscious technology. So next time you stand before a mural older than memory, or gaze at a stone carving whose eyes seem to follow you, ask yourself. Are you the observer? Or are you being observed? Are you admiring the brushstrokes? Or is something in the pattern awakening in you? And most importantly, what if the moment of looking is the code executing? Let the viewers sit with that. Because perhaps the greatest untapped power of human history isn't buried underground. It's been hanging on the walls all along. And it's not waiting to be translated. It's waiting to be felt.